Reconfiguration.
I don't know why you turned the lights on.
He's trying to wake us all
A
up.
few more
I
steps.
wanted to make sure we have the dates right.
Make sure everybody can see.
the dates.
Okay, we kind of wanted to bring, we haven't really had a PowerPoint to guide us through, and we certainly haven't looked at this graphic for a little while, and
Man, we're
we've
getting to the end, aren't we?
moved that arrow over to reflect the early spring, late winter time period that we're in and how far we've come from the discussions of our reconfiguration all the way up to where we are now, and kind of wanted to touch on 3 of the 4 teams that have been actively moving. These are the 4 teams, as you well know. Kelly will have some change orders here for you in a second, and I'll talk a little bit about transitions of students and staff. And even though we've done that, as a matter of fact, tonight there's a meeting at middle school for, I don't remember which school, parents are there, Truman, and we're continuing to work through that with Mrs. Rabenall and communications, making sure that we've got that interface happening. And of course, tonight you approved the uniforms for those programs and 7th grade activities, and Mrs. Brown is here to talk about the registration and everything that's new and exciting in the world of early childhood education. So,
We like those pups.
yeah, let's go ahead.
Oops.
It's all right. That's good. On construction, didn't include any pictures tonight. Just trying to build this into this full presentation. But if you drove by in the last couple of days, started putting in the storefronts on the west side, so it looks quite a bit different. Just those window frames and things going in and coming along well. Curbs are being poured, sidewalks, those type of things. So moving along with that, just draw your attention to change order number 4. We've been working with Robert Studdard and the contractor as well. We had some acoustical panels in the project, and we've worked with Robert to design how we're going to finish the room out, the walls, front wall, and the side walls. And so we're going with a little bit larger acoustical panels, so it'll be similar to this room in the sense that the panels will come down to the top of the wood trim instead of just some sheetrock showing or brick around the acoustical tiles. So they'll be similar to this look, and so that is an additional cost of $900. If you go to the next slide, the recommendation is to approve the change order. It again comes out of the contingency that's built into the contract, so it reduces that contingency down to $29,619.01 and does not affect the overall contract. And if you recall, the overall contract has been reduced because of credits on change orders. So recommend that you approve the change order number 4 for $900.
Do we want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve change order number 4 for $900.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The
Change
next,
order carries.
the next slide just gives you overview, work completed, what we've paid out, and what we're still retaining from those payouts. We have a balance remaining of $1,009,000, little almost $2 million, and that's as of February 1st. Now, just a reminder, we hold that retainage until the project's completely done. So we hold 5% each time we make a payment.
And you can't complain about the weather.
No, it's been good.
Early childhood.
Okay. Well, since I talked with you last, I've actually gotten to see these pups, and so that's been pretty exciting. Seeing them in their home is awesome when I go door to door, but seeing them all together and all big groups was a good time. Some of them were happier to see us than others, but that's okay. We'll work on that when we get them here full time, so that's good. First, before I get busy into numbers, I have to thank Green Tree. Charla, will you please express my thanks? We kind of come in and take over there when we host screening, and we try to do it as calmly as possible, but we did bring 3- and 4-year-olds into the building. So you can imagine kind of how all of that goes. But we appreciate you having things set up for us and then helping us get back where we need to be. So I kind of have a wild slide up here, and I will walk you through all of the steps of it. I wanted you to see kind of what I was working on now and where we're going with this, but I also wanted to give you the detailed numbers of what we saw and what I expect to see next week. We screened 108 kids total that day, or well, between those 2 days. 54 of those 108 are not currently enrolled in any preschool program within the district.
Bang on.
So we were working hard to find those little hidden children, and I think we were successful. I was very pleased they followed through with screening, and I feel like the screening was very well received from families. They had good questions during the slides, but they seemed very happy and settled with the plan, so that was good. We did recruit 11 new PAT families while we were
That's
there.
fantastic.
I put our lovely volunteers on that, and they did a fabulous job of securing some new families for us, so that was a good thing. If you look up in the interesting facts, this is interesting to me. This is the kind of stuff that kind of makes my world go around during the day. Out of those 108 kids, we did make 10 early childhood special ed referrals. Okay. So those kids, based on the screening, we found that they may need a little more help, and if so, maybe sooner than August when we could help them in our program. 6 of those 10 have followed through on the additional paperwork and made appointments for intakes, so they will be going through that process at Wyman. The point system that I've talked to you about before seems like it worked very, very well this year. If you can look at the blue and the yellow, the blue are kids who could potentially be our peers. The yellow are kids who could potentially be our pre-K pups. And I just have a column of their motor score, their concept score, and their language score, and then the points they receive for each. The column closest to the blue column is the behavior points, and those came into, that was what determined my peer pups from my pre-K pups. The lower the behaviors, the better chance we had. It worked very, very well as far as placement, and that's one of those things we knew it will change over time. So far, we're doing okay there. We did happen to have screening during a week of, I think most of Phelps County had some sort of illness, and so we did have 15 screenings scheduled of parents who called to say their child was ill. So we are making those screenings up here in the building next week, and my parents and teacher screeners are going, parents, teacher educators are going to come in and help us screen because I need to get those kids in our spreadsheet very quickly. So as of right now, based on just the children that we saw last week, 56 can be potential peer pups. 52 would qualify as potential pre-K pups. I would like to hold a few slots for those referral kids. If they do not qualify for early childhood special ed, we definitely need them to be in their pre-K program. So I will, but that number allows me to do that right now. We'll add scores in for those 15 that are rescheduled. I actually think I was out in Jeff City at a meeting all day, but I think that number's to 17 now. But we'll screen whoever comes to us between now and next Tuesday. I would love to have my potential class list groups by the 24th. Our private providers, some of them are opening registration for their programs March 1st. I would love our families to know what we have available for them so they can sign up when everyone else does and know what kind of program they need. So that's my goal, is to have everyone in my spreadsheet by the 24th. I hope to contact families between the 27th and the 1st of March to let them know of placement options we have. With our peers, we will schedule that play date. I hope to do that in early March. We'll put those in our program now. Our early childhood special ed teachers can monitor that and kind of help me make sure that we're on the right track as far as who needs to be where and all of those kinds of things. So If you've added up these numbers, you will very quickly see that we did for sure find 120 kids with a few extras based on if these 15 do for sure all show up next week, how many referrals we have, and those kinds of things. So I would expect our program to be full by the end of next week when we start calling families. I will keep a waiting list. In reality, not all of these families will be here in August, but there will be more coming. So
Very good.
good things, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks for all your hard work, and please thank the folks that came over and did the screening. I know you had some volunteers and
Yeah.
staff, but make sure you
Great.
express our appreciation, certainly to the volunteers that came.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley is not with us tonight. Maybe we could entertain a few comments about the MSBA Legislative Day. Jane, Dr. Zalis, myself.
We're not done
We're
yet.
not done. Sorry.
We can do whatever you want to do. What time was face-off? Well,
We got plenty of time till the puck drop.
I talked in the introduction a little bit about the transition update meetings, and said tonight we've got middle school staff. So the meetings are for current, as you can see there, I won't read that to you, when they're scheduled. One of the things that we talked about at our last board meeting was just the ability to get the parents and the students together in the building. The students have been over, saw the new playground equipment proposed, and talked through those things. Now we're talking more about schedule, more about just becoming acquainted with the administrative staff, and we've got one, as I said, going on over there as this meeting is occurring. So you see the other ones for the other three buildings, and then for the fourth graders will be scheduled here later in the spring, like we typically would do when they were coming over to be fifth graders. That process will be the same. As far as is there another slide? Wanted to also reacquaint you with the slide that we used during the campaign when we set the parameters for the tax levy and the bond, this particularly with the levy. What was the money for the levy going to go for, and what was our budget parameters, making sure that we stay in between those two. And the original is down there in the bottom. As you can see, the numerical range of let's see that, what was that, 980, 785, 1.1, I had that in my head, 1.1 million, no, I had a contact issue. And so what's now reflected in the other columns are the things that we're working our way through. For example, Laura's position as Director of Early Childhood, the additional position was either going to be a counselor or an assistant principal for Raleigh High School is now embedded. And then we'll be coming to you with staffing for the pre-K programming in the coming weeks so that we can start to recruit those teachers, and we'll have aides in those places. So there's a transportation line item in there that, wasn't a part of the previous discussion we just had. We're still going to fully realize that because we are working with the existing daycares and preschools to make sure those students can get to and from, and that we supplement each other's activities and programs rather than becoming a burden on the parents who might want to come to us who can't because they're somewhere else, and then all the other things that are pretty consistent or have become realized as a result of maturing that sheet from the campaign to where we are now. But the lower right-hand corner in yellow is where we started with discussion, and our projection is to be well within that, and our intent would be never to exceed it. So I should never say never, I guess, but our effort is to do that.
The other thing that this doesn't reflect, this is budget for next year. Obviously, some of those positions will be reimbursed the following year.
Yes.
But this is the true, budget cost for next year.
So when you say that the early childhood special education teachers and associated aides would be costs that would be reimbursed because of the Pierce program?
3 of them would, and the 3 ECSE teachers,
Yeah.
and then the 6 aides would.
3
3 of the
aides.
6 aides would be,
Yeah.
correct. So The 3 pups teachers would not, and the aides in those classes would not. Local funding support those. So.
Okay.
I'm not going forward till you guys tell me you're
But-
done.
Now,
Is there another slide?
no, just questions and comments, happy to entertain those, but it's been a while since we looked at those
Yeah,
things.
it
and
is.
We wanted to kind of reach back and reacquaint ourselves with the timeline, reaffirm the direction we're headed, and make sure everybody knows where we're at budgetarily, so, very good.
Very good. Any comments about the MSBA?
I was just going to say, in regards to Laura's presentation, I think it would be well worth, and Laura's maybe already done this, taking time to think about how we got those kids to registration, who helped us, who do we need to grease a little more for future years, because, you know, it's gonna work like this probably every year. It's not just going to happen. So knowing what worked well and what didn't, and those types of things.
However, I think after this year, I think it will, just that first year, like, people will hear about it a lot more, and I bet they'll,
But to
I
get
mean,
those
even though
kids who would
stay after.
normally not come,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
exactly.
talking, because that's our
Yes.
focus. That's
Get
why
getting
we
those
did
50-plus kids that have no,
Yeah, that's great.
good.